Okay. Okay, sorry. Um, Going on the tail of what Commissioner Klauber was talking about, I had some ideas of other spaces as well, and I wondered what the considerations were for, it's very hard to describe to you, but um, something that was involving the area of the stairwell glass that might even extend over to the left above the sign, the revolving sign. So that wall above the sign, if that could be integrated into something, would that be acceptable?
The wall above the electronic sign?
Above I can't read it, it's too small. Right above the lit sign that's on the wall.
Steve, that's right. It's above the marquee. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is that the marquee? Where's the marquee? Is that it? The marquee sign? Okay. I didn't know have a name for that. So the area above the marquee sign. So it'd be just to the left. It would incorporate, maybe someone would want to use that as well as the windows area. Could something like that be incorporated as a location?
I know we talked about that as a possibility and we moved away from it. I don't remember the full reasons why that is, so I can get them for you. There was, I think, reasons why it didn't make as much sense and also detracted from the marquee. So we kind of moved off of that.
Okay, how about the area to the right of the vertical rectangle, that whole rounded area of glass? I assume that's where that's where the gallery is. Is that correct? Is that the area right above the gallery?
The vertical rectangle? You talking about the gallery doors?
No, I'm talking about the rounded part of the building that's the green traffic light is right on it. That area of the building. Has anything been considered for over there?
Oh, I see. That's the sort of the airspace above the gallery. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, we didn't think about that. I think what we were trying to do, so I think we would not have thought of that as an exclusive location, but I think we'd have to step back and consider whether that could be another optional location, because I imagine it could, but it is, you can see that if you were viewing it from the vantage of this image, you would have a bit less visibility than these other sites. On the other hand, it might have some more visibility from California. So we may have to step back, consider that. I don't know the building as well about how work would be mounted there.
Well, I don't either, but I mean, it could be hung from the top or come cascading over. I don't know. I'm just trying to see how this building can be used, in a creative way. Okay, I have another idea that I had thought of, and I don't know how it would work. I have to talk in terms of a particular artist, I think, because it's still hard to describe. But let's see, if you go down from the marquee and you look at the area where it says something LCA Bedford Gallery. If you put some kind of a lacy, clear sculpture there that would sort of arc over, not to hide the marquee, but arc over and attach to the building and have it be something where people actually would walk through, almost like its own portico, but definitely be on the outside part of the plaza. Would that be a particular site? I'm going to tell you the name now because I'm also going to talk about him later. There's an artist called Mark Fornes, or he also goes by the Very Man, that has done some really interesting, exciting work that I could see in a place like that. It would not be high enough to cover the marquee, but it might extend over towards the windows. I don't know what he would do, but it just seems like we need a very startling piece there. And so I was wondering for some flexibility that isn't kind of bound by fairly regimented spaces that you've marked.
I'm having a little trouble visualizing what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Are you talking about the space above the marquee
Nope,
electronic sign, or below
No.
that? And it would below that.
I'm just talking about something that might take up the corner below it. It's not really a corner, that area below it, which I think those are the doors to the resource office. Something that went around that and encompassed part of the window area as well. So
Commissioner
if you,
Manuel, could I, just for the purpose of addressing your question from a technical perspective, I may ask the general manager, Scott Dennison, to weigh in on a couple of your questions, if that's all right.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know somebody has a little arrow that they've been using that could describe what I mean, but
Well, if you want, I can comment on a few of the things. Above the marquee would be structurally, the wall there is structurally solid enough to hold something like another marquee or a piece of art, definitely. Access is just a little tough, but it actually comes out on the third floor. So we'd have to penetrate the wall, put the bolts and things on the third floor side, kind of in front of the Lesher sculpture, the cowboys that are up there, if you remember that, on the third floor. So that would be above there. Down below, in anything in front of those doors, we would have to get fire code permission, which is unlikely if it impedes the exit of any of those front doors. So that we'd have to really look at that. And then over by the gallery entrance, sort of side door entrance, something over there. I mean, there is an emergency door over there. I don't know if that's an emergency door for the gallery offices. Typically it stays closed, but that there is an emergency exit there, so for egress in case of obviously a fire or something like that. The spiral stairs was an idea that I agreed with the committee that is highly visible. The challenge is it's backlit at night because the stairs are all lit up. So that the artist would have to take that in consideration. But that's just listening to the discussion. That's my take.
okay. Thank you. And that clarifies, because I was mixing up that entrance with the Bedford office doors on the other side. You'd have to have something rather wide that people could, it's very easy to walk through there, which is what I had in mind. All right, I'll finish with that. I don't think I have any more questions.
Commissioner Bruner?
Yeah, quick question, Stephen. If I'm reading this correctly, these are the proposed sites that would then go to the artist to take a look at and work with. Is the expectation that the artist will come up with a proposal that covers all three, or is that more at the artist's discretion?
Commissioner Bruner, it's our artist's discretion. So these are a menu of options. They might choose to address 1, 2, or 3. There are considerations in sense of stretching their budget, the impact of each individually, what might be complementary one to the other to create a collective experience of the pieces.
Okay.
So it is up to the artist to be able to work within these options.
Good. That helps me. It's not that we're trying to fill every little space here. That'll be up to the artist to come back with a proposal then. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any more questions for staff? Vice Chair Klauber? Vice Chair Klauber?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. So can we get Scott Dennison back, since we answered the question for Jane's question? I just want a confirmation from Scott whether he recalls having considered the rounded area right in front of the building, at the top of the building, which would not take any plaza space. And we could presumably create something that is not too heavy for the edges along that rounded curve. And so, Scott, can you speak to whether that was considered?
Yeah, part of the challenge with that is, it's metal up there. And so the artist would really have to figure out a thin piece of art, because the windows would not be blocked. So it's really just the blue bands I think you're talking about. So the two top blue bands, is that what you're referring to?
I am referring to the top blue, it looks blue or graphite, very top of the building above the windows. And it doesn't have to be a line art piece. It could be several art pieces, for example, just above each of the columns. So from this photo, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So there are opportunities for 6 pieces of art up here that are cohesive, presumably. And so I think that would be a spot that allows all the area to stay, for the performance part, and then the art would be up there in this very noticeable part of the building, and everyone would be able to see it from whichever corner you're standing, and it's over there, etc.
Are you thinking that it goes above? It starts at the top of the window and goes above the blue band, which is about 6 feet, maybe 5 feet.
Yeah, so definitely would clear the window, not anywhere near the window. But if you look at above each of those columns, it would go on, on that band, maybe coming from just behind the graphite top band, and be attached from there. It is steel, so it's a very solid structure. So if the artist would create, just for the sake of, for a sample, like let's say the artist created several like medallion-like pieces. They could be attached to each of these columns up there.
Yeah, you'll notice if you look closely at those columns, at the top of there, you'll see a little slit that is really, in some places, it's a little slit, and that's part of the drainage system. So we just have to look at that. I don't think anything's, out of the question. We just have to look at it and look at the weight of whatever the object was, because it's 31-year-old metal up there. So we'd really have to look at it and make sure that it could bolt in properly.
Yeah, I think that could, if you guys haven't crossed that out, that could be an option for sure. And it's very visible and totally, completely out of the way of performances.
Yeah, I would suggest that the committee look at that, because you won't see that from the plaza. You will see it as you approach the building. But once you hit the plaza, it's really a tall building to look at any art that high up. So, but it's up to the committee to look at that and see if that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for staff? So now see if there's any public. Does any member of the public wish to provide public comments at this time on the staff's presentation? Please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only, if you would like to provide a public comment. At this time, I will ask the secretary if there are any members of the public who would like to provide comments.
Chair
Yeah.
Meredith, at this time, we have no members of the public wanting to provide comment.
All right, thank you. So now is the time for commissioners to make comments. So who would like to go first about this? Commissioner Cowdery?
I'd
And
like to, I'm sorry.
If I may, Chair, Commissioner Cowdery, sorry. We're looking for two sets of comments. One is on the proposed locations or potential locations, and the other is, as Steve said, your ideas about goals for the work. We'll probably separate those two, focusing first on the location and then coming back to the goals, unless you want to flip it. I'm okay with doing it either way, whatever you prefer.
Actually, I was going to suggest that we flip it and talk about what our goals are first, because I think that might drive the locations.
That's
And
fine.
I also would like to follow up what Jane said earlier, or Commissioner Emanuel, about discussing each location separately, as opposed to trying to do them all together.
That's fine with staff. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Cowdery, do you want to go first? Talk about goals.
Goals? Well, what we wrote in the strategic plan, I think really says a lot in terms of, we want a signature piece of art that will be interactive and engaging, create a gathering place for community members and visitors. And I've had several members of the community say to me recently, what happened to the plaza? They did all that work and it just looks the same. So I try to explain, it's a lot of it you can't see, it's all underground, but it's going to be used for performances. But I think what the biggest goal for this piece of art is to enliven that big space so that people have a reason to go there other than going to a performance. So yes, they'd see it when they're going into the Lesher or the Bedford. Yes, they'd see it when they're going to an outdoor concert, but it would be great to have a signature piece there that would cause people to want to go use the plaza or visit the plaza just to see the piece of art. So that's my goal. It's interactive, engaging, and becomes a gathering place.
Commissioner Emanuel?
I really second what Glynis has said. Commissioner Cowdery, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm not muted. Okay, I want to basically second what Commissioner Cowdery said. I want a stunning piece that really captures somebody's attention. I want it to be different. I want it to be innovative. I really want an outstanding piece. This goes all the way back to around 2000 when was the first presentation, I believe, for art for the plaza, and we lost out on a really wonderful artist, Dennis Oppenheim. And it's time for the city to have a knockout piece. There are interesting shapes of this building that can be used, and a lot of I would hope for a lot of creativity in the piece. I want it to be extremely visible to anybody, and it's one of the busiest intersections in town. Thank you.
Other commissioners? Comments about goals? Vice Chair Klopper?
I second what my fellow commissioners have said, and the creativity is, obviously creativity is very important. But I also want to highlight that it really should speak to Walnut Creek as it becomes a more inclusive town, a diverse town, where art is beyond what has been seen before, and it speaks for what Walnut Creek's vision for itself should be. I highlight diversity and inclusion here, which are hot topics today anyway. So I think that goes hand in hand with the piece, the way it should turn out, as well as the artists that should be selected to work on this. Very important art statement for the piece and statement for the city of Walnut Creek and surrounding area. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bruner, do you have any comments on goals?
No, I agree with everyone. I think this is a good opportunity, and hopefully it will add not just a dynamic feeling to this, but maybe some color. The building itself, concrete, slate gray or blue, whatever that is, doesn't really capture the eye. I like the idea of being able to see it from afar to draw you in, but hopefully it will be very visible once you are, on the site and you can continue to engage with it.
All right, thank you. I guess my comments and goals, I agree with everything that everybody said already, but I'd also like to add that this is such a dominant building for the community, so I'd really like to see whatever the artwork ultimately is, that it really enhances and highlights this building even more than it is. It's a big building. It's, as Commissioner Bruner says, it's gray. So anything that can really highlight this and really enhance it, I think that's important. Commissioner Kadri?
I just thought of some other comments that really are more about goals for the piece than about the location, so I'll add them in now. I want to make sure that since we haven't always had the best success with art pieces that are reliant on light, I don't want this to be something that is reliant on light. So if the location means it has to be, you can't really see it unless it's lit, I'm not a fan of that. It needs to be accessible to the public, whether they're going to a show or not. And it'd be cool if it did something with shadows, just because there is so much sun there. The use of shadows might be something that would be an added benefit.
Anybody else on goals?
I just would like to second what Glenna said, particularly about light. That building at night is so lit up that any sculpture that depends on light won't stand out well enough for that to be its central theme.
Staff, do you have enough now to help you put together a list of the goals for the artist?
I do. Thank you. I'm sorry. I absolutely do. And these are very, very helpful. I was writing furiously. So we're going to add these to the things we've already talked about that are a little more generic. And they're very helpful. And I think, artists like as much specificity as they can get, and then to be able to let their imaginations run. So I think these things are all very important. I also think that they speak, it's clear that you all have a very keen awareness of the importance of this as a facility, as a building, as a location, as a destination. So that's what we'll try to convey collectively, all those thoughts to the artists. So thank you for those.
Now we'll move on to the locations. Comments on locations. Who'd like to go first?
Are we going to do them one by one?
If that's what the commissioners would like, we can do that. Want to start with the portico? Well, we'll start with the plaza. That's number one. So that would be the one that's on the sidewalk. Who'd like to go first? Any comments?
Yep.
Commissioner Emanuel?
That's certainly a predictable spot. It would need to be very tall. I'm not sure exactly how big a footprint that is and whether an artist is limited to a certain square footage. I guess I should have asked, well, I guess that's really a question, but that's a comment. It certainly is a logical spot, but perhaps not the most innovative spot.
Any other comments on site 1, which is the plaza? Commissioner Cowdery?
I agree with Commissioner Emanuel that it is the most logical spot. I think that it is also the most pedestrian friendly in terms of pedestrians being able to come up and engage with the art. So I don't have any problems with it at all. I like it.
Vice Chair Klauber?
Hi, although I like the idea of a very large sculpture for this area, for the spot, which I think is what was mentioned before. I think it takes space from the performance arts idea for that. And I also don't think that is a sculpture, the scale of the sculpture could be big enough, given that is a small footprint right there. So it would take up, to be scale appropriate, it seems like it would necessarily need to take the front entrance. So that's my least favorite of all options for those reasons.
Commissioner Bruner, do you have anything about site 1?
Yeah, I think I agree with the last statement. In that, I'm looking at the picture, the Site 1 picture that shows the proposed footprint, and it looks like it does more blocking than attracting, especially with the lampstand probably about 4 feet away from it, and it being maybe another 4 foot away from where the people would have to walk around it. It's my least favorite. Also, I think there's probably, as has been mentioned before, in terms of lighting, I don't know what that would look like at night.
All right, thank you. I like this site. I think it does have potential. It doesn't necessarily have to, I mean, just because there's that footprint there doesn't mean it can be monumental and going up and out. And I understand from the committee meeting, there was about the amount of infrastructures in the plaza, that the space is limited. So I think if there is going to be a piece in the plaza, this is the best place for it. So I'd like to see it stay in the list. So the next one would be talk about this. Anybody else on the plaza? So the next one would be.
Yes, no, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute. I do want to respond to this location. I didn't mean to say that I didn't think it was a good one. I think it should be in the mix. I just think it needs to not be blocky like that. As far as the lighting, in response to Commissioner Bruner's comment, that it can be lit very well at night by lights coming up from the ground or from the building itself. So I don't think lighting would be an issue there. The bigger issue might be moving through the area, but I don't think it should be taken off the list.
Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Cowdery?
I just want to also say if one of our goals is for interactive and engaging, that this is the key place for that, just in terms of, like I said before, the pedestrian level.
Anything else on the plaza? Why don't we go to the portico and ceiling? Anybody like to start comments on that?
Sure.
Commissioner Emanuel?
I think I am not in favor of this spot for several reasons. I feel that it is not truly accessible to the public, that it doesn't engage you as you drive by or walk by. It doesn't engage you as you approach the building. It becomes something that can only truly be seen by walking through it. It would need, to my thinking, it would need an incredibly inventive artist who would be bringing it out around the columns and up above or whatever. I don't want to see banners hung from the ceiling or bas reliefs on the wall. It's not my vision for this building. And I don't believe there's enough public access.
Commissioner Cowdery?
I don't see this as the only place the art could be. I could see this not be a standalone. So if the artist chose to put art here, it would have to also be someplace else. So if it was going to mirror something that happened in one of the other sites, I'd be okay with it. But if it's just going to be here, it's not, for all the things that Commissioner Emanuel said, it's just not accessible enough, prominent enough. So it could be an add-on to another location, but not just the location. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yep.
Any other comments on this option or this location?
I can go next.
Here?
So the artist, if this is a chosen location, which I prefer more than the other because of the space availability for performances. I think the artist should consider the courtyard and continuing for continuum. If you're coming from the garage, to have that area as you first enter the courtyard and then flow through this portico. And I do think that something unique can be done here. And I think that there it fulfills the idea of people having a place to just see the presumably amazing art that would exist within this portico and the walkthrough. And it is also covered, so rain or sunshine, you'd be able to have access to it. And you could potentially have something quite interactive for the audience as well. Both looking down at your feet or along the walls or on the ceiling. So it could be a wondrous type of art experience. And I really like this spot because of that. And it's away from where the other performance or the performance is supposed to take place. So I do like this a lot, and I think it could fulfill all of the goals that were listed. Thank you.
Commissioner Bruner, do you have any comments?
No, I think nothing to add.
I see the potential for this location, although I agree with Commissioner Cowdery. I think it needs to be part of something else. When there's a performance going on in front of it, you're going to lose a lot of its impact, or potentially lose a lot of its impact. So it's not kind of a 24-hour have a 24-hour impact on the surrounding area. But I think it's an interesting space, and I think I'd like to see it stay in, just to see if somebody comes up with something. Any other comments? And why don't we go to the third location, which is the stairwell?
Just a minute. I wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, Commissioner Emanuel?
Thank you. I think that this space caters to people who are coming into the theater. And I think that's the wrong approach for this building. They're already coming to an art gallery inside. They're already coming to an evening's entertainment, and that it becomes an exclusive spot that I feel does not invite the community to engage in art. I think that it would be reasonably hidden to those who don't come to the theater. And I think that by having something out on the plaza or on the outer face of the building attracts people's attention, not only to the art, but to say, hey, this theater is really hip. I'm going to try a play here. I got to get inside there. So that's my final comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that, if I will. It could be that today most people would come through here to go into the leisure center. So that's fine. But if there is art that is significant in the way that we're all talking about, then yes, this will become a destination place for the arts. And so what we're trying to build here is a vision for the future. We're not trying to stay with this as a status quo. You only go there to see plays, or I don't think that is necessarily the only future for this space. And I think that if there's art that is good enough to bring, to be advertised, to be marketed, and then be known as a place where in Walnut Creek that you can see this type of art, this could be a great spot protected from the elements. Thank you.
Commissioner Cowdery?
Can we see the picture back to where it's a street view of this spot, when you're looking from the street? Thank you. I just think if we look at how hard it is to see what's inside the portico, that I'm going to say yet again, if this is the only location, it's a missed opportunity in terms of visibility to draw you to the plaza itself, draw you to the building, because it's just too dark. It's too much of an overhang. So I really think we need to consider this as an add-on location, not just a standalone location.
Any other comments on the portico? Then let's move to the stairwell. Who'd like to go first with comments on the stairwell? Anybody?
I'll go first.
Vice Chair Glauber?
Yeah. So I think this is too busy for more art. I think initially the architects of this building probably wanted to have the staircase be a point of interest. Otherwise, they didn't have the glass around it. I just see it as making that too busy, and I don't see. I don't think we should take this option off the table, but I don't think that this is the best use of the space where art that needs to be interactive, engaging, where people come here just to see that, or where it gathers community members. Maybe I'm wrong, and some artist is going to be able to make this an incredible option, but I don't see it. So this is my second least favorite. Thank you.
Commissioner Emanuel?
I think this has a great potential for something tremendously creative. All kinds of different structures that might start at the top and cascade down, might grow from the bottom and spread. I'd like it to include the option of that area above the marquee, possibly even, I don't know, it's very hard to talk about this because we're not looking at any artists, and so that it's difficult to imagine what could be. But I have looked around at different artists on the internet for things that would cling to buildings, that stand in front of buildings, lean up against them. And there's some very interesting possibilities. And maybe it would even go a little bit to the right. I can't quite recall exactly how that the structure is there above the gallery. I don't know, but it could be something that runs along the top. So I'm just a little concerned with limiting it to just that window area, so that whatever it is doesn't take up too much of the window. So that's why I was asking about that area above the marquee. So I don't know how you would promote this to an artist, but you can figure that out.
Any other comments? Commissioner Bruner?
Yeah, I think this has a lot of options that could be done with it. Hopefully something that is quite dynamic. I think it angles out enough that when you're in the plaza, you've got a good view of it. It's also very good for anyone approaching the center from all but just coming down Locust Street towards Civic. So I think this is a one that really needs to be kept into the mix.
Commissioner Cowdery, do you have anything?
Yes. So when we had our subcommittee meeting, I expressed concerns about art being on the interior of this space because I don't consider that public art. It's only accessible to people that are in the center. So I want to make sure that if this is one of the locations, it's definitely includes a big portion of it on the exterior of the window rather than the interior. I also walked there on Sunday mid-morning, and you can't even really see in the windows when there's a reflection. So if there's something inside, it's not really going to be visible from the outside. It's just too much going on to see it, except for maybe at night if it was lit up. I just think it would be, inside is not going to be good in the stairwell, but exterior I'm fine with. I also think that it could, maybe there's a way to combine the exterior of the window and do something like Commissioner Emanuel was saying earlier, some type of, I don't want to say overhang, but some type of arcing, moving sculpture that ties into the plaza space. Do you know what I'm saying? So it could start at the plaza or start at the windows and end in the other location, and combine the two. So I would not approve this if it's interior, but I would approve it if it's exterior.
Anybody else?
I just want to, I guess, compliment what Commissioner Cowdery said. I agree that I don't think there should be anything on the inside. If somebody comes up with an option for this. And then the other item that just came to mind is as I was talking about the rounded edge of the front of the building. Maybe the artist can create something that goes from that exterior window, with, for the spot we're talking about now, to the top of the rounded area. Something grand, something that goes from one side to the other, wrapping around there, perhaps something in a kinetic type of style. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Manuel, did you have another comment?
Yes, I just wanted to talk for a second about the word that we all throw around, and that is interactive. And I don't, it seems to me that when you engage with a piece of art, it's interactive, and that they always say that the viewer completes the work of art. And so I don't want to confuse interactive with being able to turn a handle or touch something. I want it to be a more generic statement that in effect is engaging and asking somebody to come closer. That's all I had to say about that.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Just my comments is I really like this site. I think it's highly visible. It's really could become a beacon, and I don't mean in the way of light, but I mean in terms of a real landmark piece of work that you can see going south on California. It is very visible going south on California from Civic, from Locust, and it would be highly visible to really stand out and really become a statement piece. So I think this location has a lot of potential to meet the goals that we've talked about earlier tonight. So, from a question for staff, do you want a vote on this, or do you want to hear? I know some commissioners have some other ideas. How would you like to proceed? What would
Thank
give
you. Sorry. Thank you, Chair Mara. I would like to hear a vote on it, but I would like to also see if we can put back in a couple of site options that the commissioners have brought up, which are either new or extensions of sites we talked about, and then have that as a final list. Since, as we said, we are talking about a menu of site opportunities. And that would be, so if you don't mind, I'll go ahead. That would be the sites that we've got here, that we've illustrated, then the potential extension of something that would be above the marquee sign on that wall that is above the doors into the Bedford's Resource Center. The possibility that there would be work in the portico and there's an extension of it into the courtyard space, and the possibility that there might be something along the upper edge of the curved main wall above the windows. These could be part of the menu. What I would say then is if there's support from the commission to vote on these, there may be things that staff has to work through about those details, but you've given us the options, and they will be contingent on those being practical. And we would have a little bit further discussion, but we wouldn't have to come back. As I've said, and this is my bias, is that I'd like to be able to present the artists with quite a bit of opportunity and flexibility, so they can come back with something that is inspired and treats the whole center to make a landmark piece and make a big visual difference. That would be my preference as staff.
Would you, Commissioner Cowdery?
I'm fine with that. I guess what I just want to make sure is in our motion, I feel very strongly that I don't want the portico and the courtyard or that whole area to be a standalone. I really would like to see our motion have that be as a, and you can put your art here and someplace else, but not a standalone.
So I have a question. Do we have to vote today, or can staff go take our comments and then present those comments to the artists, and then the next time we see it, we have a better idea versus committing to the spots right now, especially since we've identified other spots that could work. I think that question is for you, Steve.
Well, respectfully, I don't see it as having decided on the sites. I think what we're talking about is if you are able to vote tonight, it would be for a range of opportunities. And I do feel that if we don't have a vote, that it does stymie us a bit in moving forward to work with the artists and give them these possibilities. So what I was suggesting was not to limit or switch out the sites we proposed, but to add onto those as options. Though I'd be happy to, have the caveat, as Commissioner Cowdery has pointed out, that we would ask the artist not to do a piece that was only in the portico, interior, and courtyard space.
Commissioner Cowdery?
And do we want to also make that same caveat if the artwork could be above the marquee, that's an add-on spot, it's not a only spot? I'm asking that. I'm not suggesting, I'm asking more like what other people think about that.
Since I brought that area up, I would say that is an extension. It's not a solitary place. It's not a standalone place. It would be part of an expansive spread of art in that area. I don't know. Steve can figure out a way to communicate that to the artists, but and I just want to say that I agree with what Glenn has said about the portico. I will not vote for that spot myself, but I don't think we have enough money in this pool to have art in several places, but maybe an artist will surprise me. That would be fun.
So, question for staff, do you want to vote on each location, or do you want a vote that, as Steve tries to summarize, these 3 locations and then the additional ones which are talked about tonight? Just one motion. What would be most helpful for you?
I guess this may be a question to our director, but can there be a motion that says, and I'll frame it, we approve as primary locations, the plaza, staircase windows, and as secondary or add-on locations, portico and courtyard space, wall space above marquee, and window, maybe call that an atrium space above gallery. And you could vote on that as a package.
As you just described that, Steve, that makes sense to me from a staff perspective, but I just want to make sure that's the consensus of the commission. So if that's the motion that someone wants to make, that would be up to the commissioners, but it makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cowdery?
I couldn't tell if his motion included the exterior of the windows or just the window pane, but I'd be glad to try to make the motion if it needs to come from one of us, if that's what you're saying. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So I move that we approve the primary locations of the for the artwork on the Redney Plaza or at the Leisure Center. It might not necessarily be on the plaza. Be the location on the plaza, the exterior of the windows as the primary locations, and the artists can use additional spots, the additional spots of the portico and ceiling, courtyard, the area above the marquee, or the area above the rounded windows, I believe it was, as add-on locations for their art.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a vote.
I just want to confirm there's no more discussion on this, or are you ready to move on? I just want to make sure that everyone has their chance to say their piece before we close this.
Right.
Okay, I'll take the vote. Sorry, check my notes. Commissioner Cowdery,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Klauber,
Yes.
and Chair Meredith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
Thanks.
Steve.
Can I speak to just real briefly? This isn't the, okay, now we're going to go off and we'll see you in several months. You see in the staff report the next steps. The Public Art Committee will see this. The selection panel will see this. So there's lots more to do before it comes back to the full commission. So work will be moving apace, but we're excited about this, and staff thanks the commission for your information as well as the goals. That's really helpful to us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to ask how many artists are on the short list? I didn't know if that was in your report. I didn't see it.
No, it was not. And no, I'm not going to mention at the time. I'm sorry, because it is in flux, and I don't want to mislead, because we're still sounding out some of the artists.
Anything else on this item?
If I may ask, this is related to the budget. So I know that a little bit, about $5,000 was paid to the arts consultant. So I have two questions about that. Were the services there purely referrals to artists? And is there an anticipation that more of the funds will be spent on art consultants, and how much?
Thank you, Commissioner Klauber. So it was, I'm not sure if referrals is as broad as what the services were. There was a great deal of interaction and discussion with the consultant and exploration of the options and possibilities and the type of artists we wanted to do. Then there was a lot of outreach that they provided, and then orientation and connection that they provided for those artists. So there was outreach. There was also engaging those artists in the excitement and energy and interest in the project, and basically talking it up to them as really the significance and value that we feel it has. So that's the services. We don't at this time expect to engage them. If we did engage the consultant again, it would be fairly minimally, and it would be just in a little bit of the contact. I'm not certain that we're going to need to do that, however, and if we do, I can report back to you on that.
And are the artists that were referred or contacted through the consulting companies or agencies, are those on your short list?
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
Anything else on this item? Then we'll move to reports on projects. And the first is the Bedford Gallery Annual Report. Emily?
Let me just share my screen one moment. All right. Can I get a nod if you see my screen? Okay, great. Thank you for your patience. Good evening, Chair Meredith and the Walnut Creek Arts Commissioners. Emily Enders here, Interim Curator at Bedford Gallery. So I think we can all agree that this year didn't necessarily go as planned. In the middle of our 2019-2020 season, COVID happened. So that threw a small wrench in our plans, but pre-pandemic, we hosted 2 successful exhibitions, which were off menu in the Great Wave before we closed on March 17th. In June, it became clear that we would not be able to reopen in July, so we shifted gears and created a virtual exhibition of Bird Nest Nature, which features all the work in the show, installation shots, and a new online shop. Of course, the star student of our season, however, is the traveling exhibition program, which saw little impact due to COVID and helped struggling arts institutions connect with their communities while increasing our reach beyond the Bay Area. So Off Menu was our first exhibition of the season, and it was, of course, all about food and its universal appeal. This exhibition was one of our most popular in recent memory due to its accessibility and fun nature, with over 6,500 visitors. The opening reception was of special note because we invited 5 downtown Walnut Creek restaurants to host pop-up food stations. We also had a craft station where visitors could make their own food-themed felt pins. And all told, we had over 250 guests that evening. Of course, this was pre-COVID. For the events in the fall during Off Menu, we hosted Craft Fest and the Platon reception. And one is our annual Craft Fest. So that had more than 500 visitors, and we hand selected a group of 32 vendors that sold all manner of wares from necklace and earrings to zines and chocolates. In that same month, which was November, we also partnered with the Lesher Foundation and became their nonprofit partner for the Lesher Speaker Series event that featured the famous photographer Platon. We hosted a pre-lecture reception for this event in the gallery and invited friends of the Bedford to stop by for an opportunity to meet the artist. Our second exhibition of the season was our winter show, The Great Wave, and that was guest curated by Anne Trinka. This exhibition found inspiration in the famous woodblock print of the same name by Katsushika Hokusai. And this show featured 13 artists, the majority of which were located in the Bay, which made for a very fun opening reception because most of them were able to stop by. This exhibition also provided a great interest for our school tour program, and we had sold out tours. Events during this exhibition included our Free First Tuesday, and during the February Free First Tuesday, we had a workshop for creating Valentines for the ocean. This was led by the Great Wave artist Judith Lang, and guests used beach plastic to create their cards. For both Free First Tuesday events in February and March, we hosted a climate change narrative table by Great Wave artist Hugh and Starkweather, where guests could share their own stories on climate change. School tours and Art in a Suitcase remained a programming staple for us this season. And for the second year in a row, we sold out school tours for the winter exhibition slot. Despite COVID truncating our season, we had more total tours during Off Menu and the Great Wave than we did for the entire 2018-2019 season previously. Art in a Suitcase tours also skyrocketed in popularity due to increased marketing efforts and our wonderful Art in a Suitcase docents. Our traveling exhibition program had another stellar year. And as I previously mentioned, we had virtually no revenue interruptions due to COVID. However, several venues had shorter runs due to closing early or opening late. My Hero returned home with some impressive stats, which includes 124,000 miles traveled across the US and being seen by over 84,000 art lovers. Blow Up 2 will begin its 4-year tour this fall in Florida and currently has 9 venues booked. In fiscal year 20, our traveling exhibition program generated over 125,000 in revenue. And our current shows on the road are set to visit more than 40 venues. Cut Up, Cut Out is currently at a Slots venue in Turlock and will come home in January. And in early 2021, Tradition Interrupted will open at its first venue for a total of 4 shows on the road, including Blow Up 2, The World of Frida, and Personal to Political. Another giant undertaking that Bedford staff did this year was going virtual with online exhibitions and online shop and social media. So in late June, as I mentioned, we received unfortunate news from the county that they were rolling back their previous reopening plans, which meant that we would no longer be able to open in July to the public with Bird Nest Nature. So what do we do with 170 artworks that have been delivered prior to receiving this news? We hung the entire show and made a virtual exhibition out of it. Between July and September, Bedford staff created an online viewing experience complete with installation images and an online shop. On launch day, we received more than 1,000 views and have sold 7 artworks online since mid-September. The online shop also accomplishes a long-term goal of the Bedford, which is to create an online platform to sell art and merch. Steve will give a full report on this, but I wanted to take a quick moment to recognize Duncan Arcade and all the staff work that went into that. This project has been in the works for over a year, and myself and Steve and the rest of our staff are thrilled to launch this program and see all the exciting murals that will rotate through it for the next couple of years. In addition, Steve is also serving on the Rebound Temporary Art Program Committee, which has supported 2 murals by David Cho and Allie McKay. Other projects include The Wishing Tree and numerous yarn bombs, 2 efforts led by several of our arts commissioners. Our Bedford volunteers, especially our docents, have gone to work even during the pandemic. So before COVID happened, our docents had a very strong 2 exhibitions of Off Menu and The Great Wave. Those shows were almost sold out school tour wise. And then when COVID happened, they switched gears and are now hard at work developing virtual tours for school kids and have created at-home art projects for kids to do with easy to find materials. A small group of docents also created a virtual adult tour, which premiered during a 4-part art series workshop hosted by the Bedford, the Center for Community Arts, and Civic Park Community Center. Our guild also hosted opening receptions for Off Menu and The Great Wave, and are now signing up for desk shifts for Bird Nest Nature. And I just want to take a quick moment to thank our volunteer force. We are super grateful for all of the helping hands that we have and truly couldn't do it without their support. Additional thanks goes to ongoing support from DRAA, the Lesher Foundation, Renaissance Club Sport, which gives our artists a place to stay when they visit, and Diablo Magazine. Our members have also continued to support the gallery through this trying time, and we reserve the first week of our reopening for members and volunteers as a small token of our appreciation. And last but not least, none of this would be possible without the relentless creativity, talent, and dedication of the Bedford and Public Arts staff. From installing 170 artworks, to developing a virtual exhibition, to managing 5 and at times 6 traveling exhibitions, and realizing a years-long public art dream in the middle of a pandemic, these 4 individuals are the embodiment of resiliency. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and we'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Emily. Does everybody have any questions or comments? Commissioner Emanuel?
I've had the pleasure of working with Emily through the most incredible time in her career that will ever happen. And she is doing such a phenomenal job. You guys can't imagine how, well, I don't want to say overworked, but how overworked Emily and her staff are. It is such an enormous job, and so few people are carrying through in such heartfelt, and dedicated way of work. It's really been a marvel to watch, and we have to give her a great big round of applause. It's quite something.
Thank you, Jane.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Emily.
Chair Meredith, may I add, just to pile on to the comments that Commissioner Emanuel made, you'll all recall that our former curator retired effectively in March, just before the pandemic hit. So good for her, good timing. And it left Emily and a very few other staff. We were not able to retain our hourly staff, which we're really disappointed about. And so the folks that you saw there, plus Emily, have been carrying the weight of a tremendous program. The traveling program, which is for a while the only source of revenue for our department, was great that we could do that. And through Emily's leadership, we're able to come back in a forum right now. So we're excited about that, but I want to thank the commissioners for your support for the gallery. And please encourage your friends, your neighbors, your social network to come to the gallery. The exhibition that's up now is spectacular. So hopefully, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll be able to come see it in person. So we're excited about that. But I want to thank Emily as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. The next report is on the public art projects.
Good evening again, commissioners. And I'm going to ask Cindy to please bring up my PowerPoint. So I'm so excited to share with you that there's a lot of public art rolling out this period. Even with all the conflicts and issues we're facing, it's an exciting time. This is a project that you had approved over a number of months. There are two different key projects at Viamana Senior Living, which is in the Shadelands area, just the north side of the Safeway shopping center. Nori Sato's project in the fold is the fence that separates the residence courtyard from the general public spaces of the Shadelands, this park space, and it is completed. There's still construction happening in Viamana itself, but it's close to the end, and the artwork has now been completely installed. So if you can go to the next slide, please. As I noted here, it's a Corten steel and anodized aluminum metal fence. They are water jet cut panels, and it is a very big piece. It's 62 feet wide and about 7.5 feet deep. Sorry, 62 feet wide and about 7.5 feet high at its highest point. Next slide, please. I was very satisfied when I viewed and signed off on this project to the consultant. It was very much what we had seen. I think the proposal was very, very close to the final, and it's an impressive work, and it's great when you can get up close to it and really see the quality of the finished work. Next slide, please. For example, the image on the right just shows you the very lacy kind of water jet cut quality of the panels, and these are reflecting the oak tree that's nearby. It reads from the inside and outside. Because of it's a locked facility still under construction, I couldn't view it from the inside. But I wanted to point out that there is not dedicated lighting for this, but there will be courtyard lighting from the interior. So by day, it's viewed well from the outside, and you can get the exterior finish, a good view of that. And by night, it will project light from the inside too, so it'll have a bit of a glow to it. And if you go to the next slide, please. The other artist is Nikki Statius, and she did her baskets installation. These are fiberglass over plywood with some gold leafing on the gold for surfaces that you can see here. And as you enter the facility from the front side, you see the entry sculpture. This is 120 inches high by 24 inches by 24. And the foundation is below grade, and it is very beautiful. As you can see, it also catches the sun and reflects the sun if you get the sun just right. Unfortunately, when I visited, it was just a little past the optimal sunlight on the piece, but it's still really shone. Could you go to the next slide, please? And then nearby in the bioswale is this other assembly of baskets. They're varying height, 60 to 84 inches. They also have 2-foot high footings. Now this is in a little recessed bioswale with New Zealand flax. And what that is there is to collect water, retain water during flooding and so on. So there will be times that you won't see the footing at all, and you'll just see the pieces rising up above. Now, these are going to have intrinsic lighting. They actually have lighting in them already, but I viewed them so recently, just last Thursday, the lighting is not hooked up yet. It will be, they will be lit. And you'll be seeing that. And the plaques are going in. They may have already been installed. They weren't there when I saw them, but they may be installed soon. Next slide, please. A project that's pending, it isn't quite there yet. You know, probably all know the Heritage on Locust next to Waterlight Plaza. Next image, please. It's like many projects was delayed for months, but is largely built now. And if you go to the next slide, this is actually the location where our project by Jen Lewin will be installed. As a reminder, we were the consultants on this project and helped them source the artist. Jen Lewin is a New York-based artist, and she does truly interactive works that often take the form of lighted platforms that, when stepped on, they are activated. So this will be a little processional of lighted platforms that can light up when touched by the foot, that will take you down through from the street sidewalk down to the back of the property. And on the right side of it will be some seating for patrons and for passersby. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a sample I've shown before, but this gives you an idea of, this is set in a grassy field, but it gives you an idea of what that work will look like. So this has been delayed, but I understand that this project will be installed likely by early December of this year. Next slide, please. The other project that's happening, for which we were the consultants, is Trinity Heights condos, and the sign is called 3 by Lennox Homes. I'm not certain what the final title of this development will be. And this is a lot further along than the last time I viewed it. I have not got word back yet, though, when we're going to see an installation, so I will let you know when that occurs. We'd love to be able to photograph that when that happens. This is a sculpture by Pard Morrison that we help the artist select, and we'll be going in. Next slide, please. And changing hats a little bit, now we're talking about collection maintenance, not new work. So this is our Veterans Memorial Plaza in Better Times. Absolutely iconic and landmark, and a real central space of the city, and a very important part of city infrastructure for events and so on. This has aged over the years, and major maintenance has now come due. The birch trees there are dying. They will need to be replaced with a somewhat hardier variety of birch. The pump is out. There's other repair that needs happening too. And we are engaged now with Public Works to come up with some solutions for that. We're working together to identify what all the needs were, and then the costs, projected costs. Now the costs will drive our next steps. We may be needing to return to the Art Commission for an approval, but I'm hoping that we will be able to prepare a request to City Council that would request appropriation of funding for this repair, doing that in collaboration with Public Works. And we don't have a number on that yet, but it will be significant. So that's pending, and by the time you meet again, we may have a recommendation that we'll bring forward to you. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. So Emily spoke about this briefly, and I'll tell you a little bit more. We're so excited that Duncan Arcade has occurred after some time. The very fortunate timing of a Rebound Temporary Art Initiative helped us to expedite this process, and we have to give thanks to the City Manager's Office for that. This is a new public-private partnership and a first for Walnut Creek, a true gallery of outside artwork. This is an exhibition space of fine art with eclectic artists and eclectic styles. Next slide, please. These artists were chosen last year. We had them submit concepts and we were able to greenlight those pretty quickly. 4 out of 5 murals in the space are all completed. The first one you saw was by Ricky Watts. This is artist Saron Norris. I was able to meet with him when he was beginning the painting. You'll see Saron there on the upper left. And this reflects his style. He's a well-known artist, cartoonist, muralist. He has been involved in animation projects. There's a TV series called Bob's Burgers. He designed the exteriors. He designed the sets and some of the characters for that series. And he has a following from that, as well as his other work. Could I have the next slide, please? The most recently completed, just over the weekend, is Cannon Dill's Wolf. Cannon has a painted acrylic background and then ink drawing of this wolf, and that's a style that we liked and we brought him on for. And then next slide. Next slide is the last image in the arcade, Velia de Eulis, and she was the first painter completed. A really wonderful painter who did this giant floral, which is called Floral Bounty. We have one last artist coming in. The 5th artist, Casey Gray, sadly had personal reasons. He hurt his ankle, sadly, and had to postpone installation, which would have probably been by now. So we're looking at most likely a mid-November painting before we've got the first series completed. We've received very positive feedback from the artists who were involved. They had a great experience. They said they liked the space. They were really taken by the fact that it has very good light, yet it's sun protected. So there's skylights and electric lights. The owners have beefed up the electric lighting in there as part of their relationship with us. And so it's very well lit. Saron mentioned that he was able to work much later in the evening than he expected because he wasn't reliant on solar light. So he actually finished a couple of days shy of his expectation. But they were pleased how it's open air, yet weatherproof, public access day and night. They thought it was terrific. So they had a good experience, and hopefully they'll share that with other artists because we'll be looking for other artists to put work in. I'm going to propose that after a year or so, we'll start to look at ramping up a new selection process to be able to rotate these out after a period of about 18 to 24 months. So we'll be putting in new work. And this project costs slightly under $25,000 in a budget that you had all approved earlier. And I think we can hold the cost at that for the next series, if not reduce it slightly, perhaps too, because I've learned a lot more about the space and about the difference between the walls and about the nuance of budgeting that. So we're very happy to announce that is in. That's the end of my project report, but this does bleed into the rebound project report. So I'd be glad to report on that if there are no questions.
Anybody have questions on the public art?
It's all right, Chair Meredith, if Steve just proceeds with his next one, and then we can fold the questions into both.
Okay. We'll talk about the rebound program.
Thank you. So as a reminder, the council approved emergency powers that included the rebound program to help downtown businesses recover more quickly. These powers granted to the city manager. They relaxed and expedited the usual processes for board and commission reviews, for permitting, for temporary signage. They reduced the extensive contracting and insurance process that would normally be necessary. As a result, our tireless committee, former Commissioner Joe Bologna and current Commissioners Cowdery and Emanuel, as well as some assistance from Carrie and Sarah with Walnut Creek Downtown, have done a great deal in the downtown. And I'm sure you've seen some of this work already, if not all of it. So I'll go ahead and show you that if I could have the next slide. There's just yarn art everywhere. Wonderful, wonderful installations, all sorts of things happening. The middle image is a wishing tree. The image on the right is our old friend Bulldog, who is fashionable and careful. in COVID. So that's terrific. And then the yarn art is getting a lot of attention and interaction. Next slide, please. I won't say who this is, but it's a very cute child of one of our staff enjoying one of the yarn art projects. Next slide, please. Our commissioners can speak to even more in depth to all of the interventions that have occurred. This is an installation of birds in one of the trees. And I'm sorry to say I don't have an image of the cranes that went in recently. There are several installations, including one right outside of City Hall, that are really wonderful. And perhaps one of our commissioners on the committee would like to speak to that in a few minutes. Next slide, please. Rebound also made some temporary murals possible, and they really helped us kickstart that process and get more murals out there than we planned to in such a short period. That's really wonderful. So I'm sure you've seen, and if you haven't, please go by Allie McKay's Better Days. Allie was a high schooler who's now gone on to college and was able to paint this in between. We're the luckier for it. Really terrific piece, very big mural and very accomplished. And it's at 1440 North Main. That's the address of the building. Sasa Restaurant is to the left of this image. So this is a space for exterior dining for Sasa. Next image, please. And very recently completed, probably Friday, this was completed, is David Cho's piece, Earth, Water, Wind, Fire, and Sky, on the site of Cheap Pete's. Really striking mural, quite large, that went in over about a week or so, about 8 days. Like all rebound activity, these projects are meant to be temporary and only up until the county fully reopens all business and some of the temporary, permitted things go away. The murals theoretically should be painted over by the city at that time. However, what we've arranged with the city manager's office and the ad hoc committee of the council is that if individual building owners want to keep these murals at the end of that period, we can work with them and we can formally ask you, the commission, to grant a grandfathered status to the murals. So we're going to take that as case-by-case basis. And for better or worse, it may be some time before that would even be a question, because the county has to completely reopen, give direction to completely reopen business. So these should be up for some time. We have one more mural pending at this time. Next slide, please. And that is at the wall next door to Mel's Patio. The address of the building is 1388 North Main. I have a proposal pending, but don't have the final image. But with luck, we'll have this installed within a matter of a few weeks' time. That would be the last of the ones that were pending and would be more or less the end of our general fund budget that we are allocated for the murals. But we're still entertaining possible additional murals. So if there's more news, I'll bring that back. So as I mentioned, the rebound helped us to jumpstart the murals program envisioned in the Public Art Master Plan and a major strategy in the strategic plan. Not only these murals for rebound, but also Duncan Arcade that was pending for some time got launched. And I want to once again acknowledge Commissioners Emanuel and Cowdery and former Commissioner Bologna. They put in so many hours of hard work on these initiatives and were invaluable to me as staff, guiding me and helping me along with the projects. And we also consulted Walnut Creek Downtown, in particular Ms. Sarah. I also really want to acknowledge the vision and support of the city manager's offices, Terry Kilgore and Colette Hanna, because they were behind us all the way on these things. And without their support, we couldn't have made them happen. And they're, I think, as enthusiastic as we are about it. So I really appreciate that they saw the arts as an integral piece of the rebound strategy, and it's to our benefit. Thank you, and I stand by for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Steve? Comments? Let's see, Commissioner Emanuel.
I would just like to say that I'm all of this is great and town is looking great, but I am so excited about Nori Sato's wall, her fence. It's everything that I dreamed of, and I know it'll look better when I actually see the real thing, but it's just terrific.
Vice Chair Klauber, you had a question, you had a comment?
Yes, I wanted to echo that. I actually was going to ask whether or not the art was in, because I had heard Viamonte got their occupancy certificate. So I assumed that art was in, but I hadn't driven by. So it is exciting to see that. And we'll have to talk about adding that to the public art tour as well for the app. And I don't know if I'm able to share a screen, but I would love to share a screen of this cranes, if that's possible. Am I allowed to share a screen?
You are allowed to share a screen. Let's just assume this is the commissioner reports.
Oh, I can wait. I can do that under that.
Fine, go ahead.
It's saying I can't share a screen, so.
We're adding you at the moment. Please hold. If Vice Chair Klauber wants to speak, and then we can come back to you, Glynis.
Vice Chair Klauber?
Yeah, let me unmute. So I'm very interested in the public murals, and they look wonderful. Thank you, everyone who's involved. Going forward, how are we sourcing the artists for the murals?
Thank you for the question. You know, I think that's flexible. What we did is we developed a short, I won't say short list, it wasn't that short, but we did a pool of amazing murals that we wanted to work with and pulled from that. I believe what we'll be doing is going back to that list, adding to that list. We will come and talk to you again about that. We certainly welcome suggestions for the mural list. And I have also, through this process, although of course, we know many artists, but even through the process with Rebound, I've found a few artists that I didn't know and brought those into the Rebound project. So I'm very excited about the great range of artists we can work with. So it's somewhat flexible, and we have some time to develop how we're going to source those artists, Commissioner Klauber.
That's great. And how do you see the future of the public-private partnership? Because I think at least in my case, I was hoping, and I think I heard that we were hoping to springboard or public-private partnership program off of this Rebound program. So what's your take on how we're going to be doing with that?
I'm wondering if you were speaking specifically of murals or more broadly.
Murals, yeah, more.
Yeah.
Because I was involved in the pre-draft of the mural guidelines for public-private sponsorships.
So yeah, I think that we have really, it's happened, and that's really wonderful. So we've started that relationship, and we're learning from it. And I think our commissioners would probably echo this. We've learned quite a bit about the public-private part of it. Interestingly, the relationship with the Duncan Arcade property owners is I hope I'm editorializing a little bit, and I say that it's a preferable relationship in the sense that we made it very clear and went into it saying that the commission and staff select the artists and concepts. And that's not something that's negotiated, but that they can review those things before they go in. And with the Rebound, we were in a position where we were really there to serve the businesses. Mm-hmm. And that's a little bit different. Yeah. We wouldn't greenlight anything that we didn't think was at an excellent level of quality or artists that were not professional and worthy of being shown. But it was a little bit different. The criteria were a little different. So we've learned from that. And I think those things we need to factor in, go back through the Public Art Committee and the Arts Commission and think about what that means. And the other issue about it is that when when we say, we'll fund 100% of it, I think there's flexibility there for the commission to say, of course, it's going to be the things that are selected by the staff and commission. What I would like to see, though, is a relationship where the businesses have some more skin in the game financially, and that's a different thing. So I would say your question presents a number of questions back and opportunities to explore together about what we want that program to be, and also to see the response of the businesses to the murals. And if we're getting businesses and saying, I'd like some of that, I'd like to see that on my wall. I know that I see the possibilities, and I see what I hope is a range of artwork that we've just shown, quite a range in terms of style,
Right.
differences in quality and differences in culture. So that's where I am.
That's great. And any ideas on how we can communicate that to the private real estate owners, and so that we can grow and show them what the possibilities are off of the experience you guys have had?
Well, off the top of my head, I think that Walnut Creek Downtown is a good partner that can help us with that. I think the city manager and those staff that are in touch with business planning, those are all ways that we can be communicating with the business owners.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Kadri, can you share screen? Unmute.
I almost made it through the whole meeting without doing that. I can wait till under the commissioner's reports. That's fine.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Steve? So we'll move on to staff announcements and brief reports on activities.
Miley, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miley Ogasawara. I am the program manager with Center for Community Arts. I just wanted to give a brief report on just what's going on at Community Arts. We have our preschool classes that have started at the end of August, and we're about to be offering some new classes that will start in January. In addition, we offered virtual classes this fall for the first time, and we're preparing to also continue those into the winter and the spring. In addition to that, we have started our classes that have been funded through the Walnut Creek Civic Pride Foundation, the Community Arts Foundation, and F&M Bank. We're in week 3. We're very excited. This will serve the Trinity Center, Vila Vasconcelos participants, and the Civic Park Community Center to offer creative writing and oral storytelling classes to seniors and community members that are underhoused or homeless. And then additionally, we are providing arts programming to some of our local schools through a grant with the community, with the California Arts Council, and our team has been working with Walnut Creek Intermediate School to share pre-recorded art lessons and weekly virtual art lessons in digital media, drawing, and painting during their AP time. And other programming is anticipated to begin in January. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Scott, are you next?
I will go next. Good evening again, Commissioners. Scott Dennison, General Manager of the Lesher Center. I just wanted to give you a little update of what we've been up to in this COVID-19 2020. We've done a couple of movies live on the top of the Lesher Garage. We had to postpone the first one that was planned because of the smoke. And then in October, we did a couple of movies up there to full crowd in their socially distanced 10 by 10 squares. And we just concluded this weekend the Lesher Center Pumpkin Patch, the first one we've ever done, but we're going to do it again next year. And so we sold about 250 pumpkins. We got some of our scenic artists who have been unemployed. They volunteered their talents to paint a bunch of pumpkins, and those sold for $45, and the regular carvable pumpkins were $30, and it was used as a donation to the Lesher Center. And then we're planning a North Pole experience with families in small groups who can go and visit our are set from last year. Mrs. Claus's kitchen and Santa's workshop. We have a great plan for socially distancing everybody and how we're going to take pictures but not touch anybody, and it's going to be pretty spectacular. And then we're working out with the unions and with the platform, we're going to virtually stream a Christmas carol to our families that use it as a holiday tradition. So we're excited about that, and we will have all of that on sale within a week. So that's it from here.
Any questions or comments for Scott? Any other staff announcements? No?
Emily, did you have any?
Yeah, Emily Enders here again, interim curator Bedford. I know you've heard from me enough tonight, but I just have one other quick update in that the gallery has indeed reopened. We reopened on the 13th with advanced ticket sales required. So if anyone has not seen the show yet, you are friends of the Bedford, so please sign up. If you have trouble signing up, let me know and come and see the show when you can.
All right, thank you. Any
And then
comments?
I just, oh wait, am I here? Okay, sorry, Cindy and I are talking while the meeting's going on. Okay, 3 updates from me. The first is you may have seen that Your Parks, Your Future has been put on hold by the City Council for at least the indefinite future. Obviously, this is primarily related to budget. With the Commission's input, the Council did prioritize Heather Farm as the preferred location, the Heather Farm Community Center, the pool for the preferred facility. But right now it's on hold until we can identify funding source for that as we look to capital budgets in the future. So that's one. 2, there is a meeting on Friday for the chair and the vice chair to attend with the mayor pro tem, and other commission chairs and vice chairs. So I just want to make sure that Chair Meredith and Vice Chair Clapper had that on your calendars for Friday at 9 a.m. Is that on both your calendars?
Yes.
Thank you. And that's virtual, of course. There's no breakfast, even though it probably says breakfast. And then one more thing, but I've forgotten what it was, and I put my notes away. Hold on for a moment. Shadelands. So thanks to the Commission for your input on the extension of the exemption for the Shadelands Business Park from the public art fee requirements. The Council heard that and supported the extension. You recall your recommendation was for a year through June 30th of next year. The Council determined that they wanted to extend it a little bit more time, so they have approved that through December 31 of next year, of 2021, and then it was sunset at that point. And we'll see where everything is economy-wise and business park-wise and everything else. But as of now, that's the date that it will expire. So thank you again for your inputs on that. So that's my update. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions for Kevin? All right, so we'll move to commissioners' announcements and brief reports on activities. Commissioner Cowdery, do you want to?
Sure. I'll start. First of all, I just want to echo what Jane said about Emily and the Bedford Gallery staff. I want to say that of all the staff, I'm so impressed with the creativity and the dedication that I've seen, not only at the Bedford, but with the Lesher Center and with Miley and her group at the Center for Community Arts. It's just been amazing to see all the dedication and creativity. Just the creativity is amazing, and how they're supporting the community. So I thank you for that. My activities with the Rebound Committee have been, it's been fun. A lot of Zoom calls at the beginning, but once we actually got things going, it's been exciting. So one of my projects was I'm sorry, I'm just trying to share my screen and talk at the same time. One of my projects was to work on cranes to decorate some trees around town. And I'm having trouble finding my picture. Let's see if I can do it this way. Yeah, there they are. So over the summer, I was up in Washington and I wanted to do something to help the community, even though I wasn't here. So I made a personal goal between June and November to fold 1,000 paper cranes. And I have to say, I made it. I don't know if you know or not, but the paper crane is in Japan is a sign of hope and healing. And so I thought it was very appropriate with everything that's going on to be able to give that gift to the city. So they're in front of City Hall. There's some by the Bedford. There's some on Main Street. So that was my crane project. And then I'm also excited to say I've been working with the Youth Commission, the Youth Leadership Commission. They approached us a while back to develop a mural. Originally, it was going to be a community service day project. And with COVID and everything, obviously that didn't happen. But we came up with the idea of doing a virtual mural. So the commission has put out a call for artists. They've selected 12 youth artists to each complete artwork in a letter of the word Duncan Arcade. And this is going to be a wayfinding mural for the Duncan Arcade murals. The artists have submitted their first draft, and we're meeting this week just to go over them to make sure that they're appropriate, which what I've seen, they're all beautiful. And so then my son will be photoshopping those letters into the mural, which will be printed on vinyl, and we think will be put on the Locust Street garage, city-owned garage, as a wayfinding mural with an arrow to direct people to Duncan Arcade. And we're also, Steve is reaching out to the Duncan Arcade owner to see if it's possible to put also a version of it above the actual entrance on Main Street as well. So it's been great to work with that group of youth. They're super, super professional, engaging, enthusiastic, and I'm looking forward to being able to share the mural with you in the future.
Commissioner Manuel?
So Glynis may have been up in Washington folding, but she was really a great part of the rebound committee and always there to have me run things by her. And I was always there to look for sites for her trees. And it was a great process. And I want to thank Steve for a lot of hard work. This wasn't easy because it was a changing scene the whole time. We'd prepare something and then we'd find out, nope, it's going to change. We've got to look at something else. So being very flexible and with it, the complications of not meeting in person made it really something. But anyway, the yarn bombs have been fun. We have almost 24. We had 13 different people making yarn, and I've got to say goodnight because I'm using my granddaughter's desk and she needs it to work because I don't have electricity at home. So thank you, everybody, and see you next time.
Thank you. Do any of the other commissioners have anything they want to offer? Any news?
Not at this time, thank you.
The only thing I have is in terms of the Design Review Commission. Obviously, they haven't met very often since our last meeting. They did look at a project at 1501 North California. It's a mixed-use project, commercial with 27 condos over, and they're going to be doing an in lieu fee for their public art. So that will add to the pot, as it were. So with that, is there any other news or comments from anybody? And I guess we're adjourned. Thank you.